What is up, everyone? So, I don't know if you know this or not, but there is a very big game happening this weekend. It is the biggest game in my favorite club competition in the whole entire world. It's the Champions League final, which means it's time to turn it over to Previews and Predictions Correspondent Adrian from Rabona TV. So take it away, Adrian.
Hey, Jimmy.
Oh, you're... I forgot you were here.
What's up, everyone? It's your favorite Canadian national. Just national.
I like Kyle Larin. He's
Good.
really good for Orlando City. I think he's going to go to Europe soon.
I think so too. Everton?
Everton?
I don't know. That's what I heard early. Is it Germany now? Could be anywhere.
You're doing transfer videos now on your channel, so maybe you know more than I do.
I've got some connections.
You got some connections?
Yeah, you know, internet.
Okay, so this is what is going to happen. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Well, of course you're ready, because off camera you picked Real Madrid, I picked Juventus. We're gonna break down this game through 5 categories. Goalkeeper, overall team defense, midfield, strikers, and manager, and then we're gonna give our prediction of what's gonna happen. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. I got my Real Madrid 2018 jersey.
Yeah, that looks nice. Is that their new sponsor?
Yeah, it's looking good. It's called Heather White.
Heather White. Okay, we're gonna do goalkeepers first, and I'm gonna let you go first because Real Madrid are the defending champions of this competition. Go.
Of all positions in Real Madrid's starting 11, I think that the most unfancied, as far as, you know, not being a Galactico or whatever, Keylor Navas has got to be the one. But that doesn't mean that he shouldn't be respected, you know?
I understand. I think that he is a player that deserves more respect. I don't think he gets enough of it. I think he's a bit of an unsung hero for the team. And I want to say that if you look at the scoreboard, he's got 1 Champions League trophy already, and Gigi Buffon has 0. But it's Gigi Buffon!
Gigi Buffon.
Come on! This season in particular, they've only given up 3 goals in this competition the whole way through. The dude is still doing it at 39. And actually, in a video that I did a long time ago, I said he was the best of all time. And there are some top players around the world. Antoine Griezmann, Iker Casillas, saying that he should be up for the Ballon d'Or. And he really should. I mean, he's putting up numbers that should. And they're on the precipice of winning a treble. And that should matter, and he's a big reason why. I don't see people talking about Keylor Navas in the same way, and I think the advantage has to go to Juventus, and you better agree with me.
I agree with you.
Yes! You're welcome on the show anytime. And next up is defending, and I'm gonna go first. Now, as much as I'll admit that Real Madrid have some incredible defenders that know how to win and step up in big moments. I'm talking about Sergio Ramos and Marcelo. They have only registered 1 shutout throughout this competition. They've scored a bunch of goals, but they've given up 17, while Juventus, on the other hand, I've already mentioned this, they've only given up 3. So when you take that into consideration, just that stat alone, I think we know who has the advantage here, but let's break it down 1 step further. Dani Alves, at the age of 34, has been fantastic for them this season. Barcelona should never have let him go. He was my man of the match against Monaco over the 2 legs in the semifinals. Then you have Chiellini and Bonucci in the middle, probably the best center back pairing in the world, or I would argue that. And then at left back you have Alexandro, who continues to get better and better and better, and he is on my FIFA career mode team, so I love him dearly. So I don't know what you're gonna say about Real Madrid, but there's no way it can compare to what I'm just saying about Juve.
And I don't think that it does compare, because I will agree with you that Juventus' defense is better. However, like you touched upon, the offensive contribution of their defense is incredible. Sergio Ramos scores a goal in Sergio Ramos time in huge games.
We're talking That's fair. That's a good point.
You know?
That's a good point.
Marcelo, for me, against Bayern, he was one of their best players.
Yeah, he's probably better than Alexandro. What I like about Marcelo, and I liken him a little bit to his Brazilian counterpart, Dani Alves, there's a spirit about them, an enthusiasm that really infects the team in a positive way. They really are the emotional leaders. And sometimes, with regard to Madrid, I thought Sergio Ramos is that guy, but I think it's becoming more and more clear that it's actually Marcelo who really drives that team emotionally.
It's like that Ronaldinho type happy-go-lucky character out on the field, you know?
Right, and I think that goes a long way to teams having success, and I think Barcelona missed that a little bit when they lost Dani Alves.
Back to Real Madrid, Dani Carvajal might not be playing, but you still have Danilo in there, who, despite not being very fancy much there, he's being linked away to Inter, Arsenal, all these other teams. He is still an excellent right back.
He is an excellent right back, and he's a good hard worker. He does his job, and I think in a team of superstars, it's important to have that balance with those guys too.
And the man who we haven't talked about yet, Rafael Varane, he's had some injury problems this season. Well, their center backs in general have had injury problems this season. So him alongside Sergio Ramos is a huge boost, despite, you know, Pepe's okay.
Is Pepe healthy? Is Pepe?
I find it harder to take him seriously now that he has hair. You know, I'm not feeling that offset.
He's not as intimidating.
Haircut. No, he's not as intimidating. When he had that shaved head and he was stomping on people,
yeah,
he was the guy that you wanted in there to scare attackers.
I honestly would think, because Pepe has such big game experience, not that Varane doesn't, you might want to consider bringing him in for this one because he can rise to the occasion. He knows what's at stake, and I think he intimidates other players. I really think he does, where Varane doesn't seem to have that same aura.
Yeah, and even if you look back at the Euros last year when Portugal won, he was arguably the best player in the tournament.
I agree.
He carried that back line. I mean, he was puking at the end of the game.
Yeah.
He gives everything. He's a warrior. So I think there is an argument there for starting.
I just don't know how fit he is. I guess it comes down to how fit and sharp he is. If he was sharp and they were both kind of even in terms of form, I would go with Pepe just because I think he's a guy that you want in the trenches doing the dirty work. And Juventus got some players that are gonna make them work, but we're gonna talk about those players in a second.
So all that to say, I agree with you. Advantage Juventus.
God, man, you're welcome anytime. You make me sound so smart and feeling good about myself. Yeah. So after 2 of these, Juventus is up 2-0 on the advantages, but now we're going to do the midfield.
Which I am gonna cut you off right there because I was so polite.
But I love talking.
I know, but it's time to listen. Let's start with Casemiro, who's gonna be playing right in front of that back four, and he's been doing an excellent job of keeping it clean, tidy back there. And he's liable to score a little smash once in a while.
We'll see about that smash. I mean, sometimes he gets himself in the box, and I appreciate that. I will say, before you go on to the other midfielders, and I do appreciate Casemiro, I thought this was Zidane's best move ever up to this point as a manager. Bringing him into the team has changed everything. He's been a real revelation for them.
Yeah, he couldn't get a game under Benitez, which is confusing. And where's Benitez now?
He's a new cast. I mean, he's got red cheeks. He's doing it for the black and white.
But moving from Rafa Benitez to Luka Modric, who have zero affiliation.
Yeah.
But he may be the best central midfielder in the world. The swagoo that he plays with. In fact, against Atletico Madrid in the second leg, him and Isco each had 9 successful take-ons each. How many did Atletico Madrid as a team have?
Probably 1 or 2.
8.
8. That's better.
Not great.
Not great, though.
And alongside him is Toni Kroos, who has emerged as the best successor to Xabi Alonso. Where he points, where he can see, he can put a pass. And he started to contribute in the goals as well. In his last 3 games, he scored 2 goals. So, I don't know. How can you beat that midfield?
I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try. So, Pjanic is in the middle of midfield. He is a little careless for me at times. He's incredibly talented, of course, and he can change games when he's feeling it. I don't know if he does that enough consistently. But this game is going to be tight to start. I really do. And I think that's a good thing for Pjanic because I think if he plays simple and gets into the rhythm of the game, it could make a big difference for him and for Juventus overall. And then you have Sami Khedira, former Real Madrid player, who recently came out and criticized Real Madrid supporters for not ever having his back. That he could play 10 straight games and do well, but if he didn't do that great on the 11th one, they'd be all over him and that he sucked and he needed to get out of there. And he didn't really appreciate that. So he's got a proper motivational chip on his shoulder, and I like that. I like that a lot. Now, it's really going to come down to Juventus' manager, Maxi Allegri, about what formation he's going to play, because that's going to tinker with the midfield overall. Because if he goes with the back four, then I think Dybala will be at the point of that, going up against Casemiro ultimately. Or maybe if he goes to a back three, there's a way to shift Dybala to find those pockets between the midfield and the back four, and maybe to draw Casemiro out of that spot that he likes to sit in front of the back four, which could create opportunities for other players. So there's a chess match afoot here with regard to formations, and even if they're in a formation that they're comfortable with, Allegri might still want, hey Dybala, I want you to be off of Casemiro's left shoulder. We've seen in the video that if we pull him out of this space, it'll allow us to hit some more entry passes into Higuain, and there's a lot of that going on. So it's gonna be really interesting to see, and I think the Casemiro-Dybala interaction or competition between those guys could really determine the result of this game.
Yeah, and if we're talking formations, Madrid could play their 4-3-1-2 with Isco at the top of that midfield three, or midfield four, I guess.
Right.
Which is just more headaches, and I think would actually be the right move for Zidane, because I think Isco and Modric are the perfect key to unlock that Juventus defense. You need that movement, that dribbling, and just those headaches, like I said before.
Yeah, so when I think about what you're saying and when I think about these players in general, as much as I want to push for Juventus here, I think the advantage goes to Real Madrid.
Yep, it does.
Okay, so you got the midfielders, and I think that was the right call overall. But let's talk about the strikers, and I'm going to start with Gonzalo Higuain. He scored 32 goals this season, and he's going to have to break that curse where he doesn't know how to score in a big final, and I think it's going to happen in this game. Come on, Higuain. Also, Mario Mandzukic. He has really adapted to the new role that Allegri has given him this season. He's not being the guy that's in between the two center backs. He's off the shoulder a little bit. He's doing a lot of the dirty work. He's shaping a lot of the team defense. He's assisting on a lot of plays. Like, he's almost this default playmaker in some capacity that you don't really expect from him. He's got great feet for a big man, and I think this allows him in some way to bomb into the box a little bit later. So if I'm a center back and I have the striker next to me, if I have an arm on him, I always know where he's going. If he's trying to run in front of me, I can still block him. If he tries to run behind me, I can hold him a little bit. But with Mandzukic running in late, I have to pick him up. But if I'm trying to look at the ball and him at the same time, it becomes very hard. And when you have a big man like Mandzukic who can get on the end of crosses like he can and give him a head start, that gives him a bigger advantage. It really does. And I think he could be a very important player in this game for that reason, because Juventus does like to use their width. They like to get Sandro and Dani Alves into the box or in and around the box to whip crosses in. So I really like Mandzukic's role in this one, and I think that's just more work for Casemiro, and the communication between him and Varane and Sergio Ramos is to identify him when he's running in late. And then based on the formation, if Allegri goes with a back three or a back four, I don't know, you have Juan Cuadrado, also known as John Square, and I love the dynamic that he brings to Juventus. He doesn't score a lot, but his pace keeps defenses honest, and if you have him out on the right, he can keep Marcelo at home a little bit and maybe keep Dani Alves from having to mark Marcelo, which we hadn't really talked about. That's a great matchup. Yeah. Because they probably will be crossing off
down
against
that
each
left
other.
Right.
Like Brazilian versus Brazilian. Yeah, that's gonna be sweet. I look forward to seeing that. So there's a lot that I like about John Square in the lineup if he does start. But like I said before, he doesn't score a lot, and if he did score, if he was prolific in that way, we'd be talking about him in a maybe even a Ballon d'Or conversation. He has that much talent.
Of course, yeah.
But I don't really know for sure. And then really quick about Real Madrid, I'm dominating this one right now. Really dominating it. Ronaldo, listen, the guy knows how to score goals. He's adapting to his age. He's figuring out ways to have success. We could argue he's a better goal scorer than he ever has been. He's just scoring goals in a way that he's using his brain and really attacking the space in a different way, as opposed to like beating people with just mere physicality all the time. Benzema, I think, has done very well under Zidane. I think he's really embraced his role, which I don't really feel like he did as much under some other managers. And then the interesting decision for you, and then Zidane, is who do you start, Isco or Bale? From a Juventus' standpoint, I want Bale to start. He's been really off form this season. He's been hurt a lot, and I really don't feel like he has a good relationship with Ronaldo. No, I really don't think that he does. No. I think Isco's been playing better over the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, and they should go with the hot hand and not just stick a guy in just because he paid a lot of money for him who might not be as fit, even though he might get more people to watch the game, even though everybody's gonna be watching this game. What am I talking about? Okay, it's your turn. I'm done talking now.
And that's... See ya. That's the thing, is that it's such a big game. Why would you bring a guy who only lasted 20 minutes or whatever against Barcelona into the biggest game of your season?
Well, it's because it's in Wales, in Cardiff, right? You gotta sell tickets to the Champions League.
Yeah, but they're gonna be sold either way.
That's true.
So you said that before about Bale. He should not start. If Zidane starts Bale, that will be a huge mistake, as Isco has proven himself in the last few weeks, where it looked like earlier in the season he was going to be leaving Madrid. But now it's looking like he's going to stay, as he's earned his spot. His take-ons, his passing, everything has been excellent. And him with Benzema and Ronaldo, Benzema is the crux for me, because Ronaldo is who you build your team around. And Benzema starts ahead of Morata because Benzema can dribble, he can pass. Ronaldo said in the past that he's probably the best striker he's ever played with. Why? Because he complements him so well. And Benzema, I mean, his dribbling isn't half bad either. You remember that nice little move on the
yeah, I do remember it, because I killed Atleti defenders for that. Terrible defending, both individually and collectively. But go ahead, keep going.
He was a striker that it just looked like you would hoop the ball for him, he'd chase it, put it in, more of a Morata. But he's not that. He can clearly move, is very dynamic, and his passing, he always seems to find Ronaldo. Speaking of Ronaldo, the man, as you said, has adapted his game to become sort of almost a fox in the box type. He seems to be on the end of every single cross, whether it's on his head, whether it's on his foot, but then he still has that smash from outside the box.
That's fair, fair, but I don't think he's gone up against players like Bonucci and Chiellini. Well, maybe he has, and we could talk about Bayern Munich and having a hat-trick against them, and Atletico with Godin, and yeah, I mean, so whatever, fine. But Bonucci and Chiellini, that's what I keep saying, Bonucci and Chiellini. We could argue, going back to Bale really quick, that he might be a great option off the bench. Yep. You give Isco that, hey listen, you're gonna start this game for me, you've been playing very, very well. You tell Bale, hey listen, I want you to start, but you're not there just yet. I just need your best 30 minutes at the end of the game when some of those guys are tired. That's what I would do if I was Zidane, but Zidane has proven that he knows a lot more than the rest of us. The guy just continues to win trophies.
Speaking of Zidane, should we move on to managers?
We should do managers, but what's the advantage here?
Real Madrid. It has to be Real Madrid, no?
Yeah.
I mean, Higuain's gonna choke, even though he's
No, he's not. This is the one. This is the time. Higuain is gonna break his cherry. No, I can't say that. That's terrible. That's a terrible analogy. Do not use that at all. He is gonna do it though. It's funny because I want to say maybe he's doing it in spite of Messi. Like he would finally score a big goal in a final when Messi's not on his team. But if he does score a big goal in this final, it's against Messi's biggest rival.
True.
So, still helps out Messi no matter what.
But it doesn't really matter because some curses aren't meant to be broken.
Whatever, but if we look on paper, Ronaldo, Benzema, and Isco, Higuain, Mandzukic, John Square, or Dybala. Yeah, I mean...
It's tight.
It's tight.
It's really tight.
It's tight, but...
I think this is the positions that are the closest in the matchup.
Potentially. But I think the advantage is Madrid.
The advantage is Madrid.
They've scored a lot more goals. Especially in this competition. They've got 32.
Ronaldo's on fire.
He's on fire.
He's been scoring, I think he scored like 60% of his goals since Christmas. He's feeling it. He wins trophies.
He does. He lives for the big moment.
Yeah.
All right. Slight advantage. Real Madrid.
Slight advantage.
All right, so we've done all the players on the field. Now it's time to talk about the manager and what he has at his disposal, like formation and subs. And I guess you can go first.
Well, Zidane is someone who I thought was going to fail. I thought he was going to be another Alan Shearer. You know, the former manager that
Diego Maradona,
all those guys that have failed at their former clubs. But he clearly is a player that is maybe one of the best of all time. He's been to the World Cup, won it. He's been to Champions League finals, won it. The players trust him. The players know that what he is saying is valid. And I think that he can relate to them the most, and that really builds that trust where Benitez and other people that are trying to tell Ronaldo how to take free kicks, who Ronaldo does sort of need to be told how to take free kicks, to be honest.
I think you make some good points, and then that trust from the players is key. I mean, when you contrast Zidane from a Rafa Benitez, and even to a Carlo Ancelotti in some capacity, who did play as well and played at a high level, there's something about Zidane. He just has this swagger, he has this cool, he's done it all, but he doesn't brag about it, right? He's not he seems very humble. And I think the players, I mean, what are you gonna say to Zidane? I feel like you could push back on Ancelotti a little bit, even though he had a successful career as a player. You definitely push back on Rafa Benitez, who looks like a younger Santa Claus. What are you gonna tell Zidane? Like, there's nothing you can say as a player. He's like, no, yeah, I got it. Yeah, gotcha, I've done that. I'm actually like 50 times better than you.
Exactly.
Where I think he needed to earn the respect of the players as a manager is with some of those key decisions. So Casemiro really turned out to be one of the best decisions formationally that they could have made. And it's really changed the whole outlook of the team, and they went on to win the Champions League. And obviously when you have trophies to back that up as a manager, it's gonna give you more confidence, and it's gonna give the players less to push back on, because you're like, listen, I made the change, it wasn't very popular at the time, and it was the best thing for the team. I'm Zinedine Zidane, shut the f up. So there's nothing there, and I really like what he's brought to the table and how he's kind of transitioned his aura as a player into his own aura as a manager.
Yeah, and I mean, part of that was also having the bravery to leave someone like James Rodriguez on the bench, you know? And speaking of the bench, let's look at some of the players they have there. We've got Morata, we've got Marco Asensio, we've got Lucas Vazquez, we've got Kovacic,
you got James.
You got James. I mean, I think that if we're going off of depth, Real Madrid has to have the better bench.
Yeah, I think Real Madrid probably has one of the best benches in the world.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a big reason why they won La Liga as well, because I don't think Barcelona's bench is as strong. And I think that's why they won La Liga as well, because I don't think Barcelona's bench was as strong as theirs. Well, Juventus is going for the treble, so they clearly have a good bench as well. Some of the guys, like Juan Cuadrado, is a name who doesn't start regularly, but he can, and he's probably the first guy off the bench for them. Absolutely. Or if he's starting, then somebody else is going to pop in. They have Marquisio, who obviously has a ton of experience and respect with the team. Lichtsteiner, Asamoah. They got Mehdi Benatia as well. He was a good signing, though he's been hurt for a good portion of the season. A lot of these guys are more defensive-minded, but they can fill in other roles and still have a big impact. And I think that experience that you can rely on these guys makes a big difference, especially in the locker room. Or if they're not playing, they're not gonna raise hell about it. They're not gonna be pouting like a younger player might. They understand how it works, they want the team to have success, and then when they get their chance, they're ready for it.
Yeah, because also a lot of what Juventus go for is it's more the system than it is the individuals. Whereas, yes, Real Madrid plays in a proper system and everything works and is sort of built around Ronaldo and the attack. But with Juventus, it's more the collective than it is the individual. So I think even though they are as big of names as Real Madrid's bench, they still know their role perfectly and can execute it.
So enough about the bench though, let's talk about Allegri as a manager. when he took over for Antonio Conte, I was a little bit like, I just wasn't really inspired by his hire, because I saw him at AC Milan. He just seemed too pragmatic for a Conte-inspired team, a Conte-driven team. But he's done very, very well. He's won 3 straight Scudettos, which we could argue isn't the hardest thing to do in Serie A. They're definitely the class, but you still have to make sure you maintain that success, which isn't easy either, knowing that everybody's gunning for you. I think he's done very well. 3 straight Coppa Italias, and this is his 2nd Champions League final in 3 years. So he's clearly doing something right, and he's been transitioning some of their best players onto other clubs. Paul Pogba, Arturo Vidal, our Lord and Savior, Andrea Pirlo. Yes, of course, I mean,
bless up.
And he's done it without really much fuss. You know, he's used that money to great effect, brought in Dybala, which I think was from 2 years ago, Higuain, Pjanic, basically stealing the best players from their rival clubs.
Exactly.
Hey, you gotta win, whatever you gotta do to continue to get titles. So I really like what he's done, and like Zidane, I didn't have high hopes, but he's definitely surpassed any hopes that I had and actually really impressed me. So I don't know which manager has the advantage.
It's impossible to choose between them.
I really think so too.
At this point.
I mean, really, it might come down to these 90 minutes, who they start, where they try to employ their players to have success. So maybe after the game I can tell you, but that would be cheating because now we're doing it as a preview video. So let's just say this, the manager, there is no advantage, it's a tie.
I like it. So that means, how do we do a tiebreaker?
So 2 points to Juventus, 2 points to Real Madrid, and we have a tie here in the all-important decider. We're going to extra time. I think it's just going to come down to the prediction.
How do you see this final going?
How do I see this final going? Well, I'm really excited about this game, and I'm sad that I couldn't talk a sponsor into sending me over to watch it. Come on, sponsors. What are you doing? Look at his face!
It's going to be tight, we know that. I don't think that we're going to get a 3 or 4 goal thriller.
No, I think it's going to be a 2-1 game. I'm just deciding, well,
in which direction?
Well, I think Juventus is going to win this one 2-1. There's just something about Gigi Buffon, having him go out on a high. I think the players are going to play for him and have this energy that they might not have had otherwise. It's something about digging deep. When you're trying to play for somebody outside of yourself, you're always playing for your family and for your own performance and contracts and all this other external stuff that's going on. But when you're trying to play for a teammate, to send him out on a high, to have him achieve something he's never achieved before, it's a different kind of energy. Real Madrid just won it last season. They've tasted this. And I think that gives them an advantage in some capacity, that this big moment won't rattle them at all.
I actually do think that it is really hard to bet against Real Madrid in Champions League finals. Their track record stands for itself.
Also, and you didn't bring up the stat, but I did know that Juventus has lost more Champions League finals than any other club. And the only time they did win was in 1996, and it was in penalties. So history is really going against them, but history is also going against Real Madrid because no team has ever won back-to-back Champions Leagues. Now, I know this used to be called the European Cup, and they won it, I don't know, 17 times in a row back in the 50s when the competition wasn't as good, but it's still history. Now that it's been renamed, nobody's done it. So maybe they have that working against them too. I'm gonna go Juventus 2-1. I think Higuain is gonna score in this game, and if they can score early, that's a bad sign for Real Madrid. I think they're gonna come back, they'll probably tie it, make it 1-1, and then something dramatic is gonna happen. Juve's gonna steal it, win 2-1, the goal last.
See, I think that it's going to be the complete opposite. I think that Juve will score early, but...
That'll work against them?
I don't know if it'll work against them, but Ronaldo's a big game player. He's going to get one. And then it's Sergio Ramos' time. And Sergio Ramos...
Again, can you do it again?
He's going to do it
Come
again.
on.
I think
he can't do it again.
I think almost every single one of his goals in the last couple of years have been when Real Madrid is losing or tying. He hasn't really scored when they're already winning. I mean, it's so tough.
It's so tough.
You can't choose one or the other.
What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. Then go subscribe to Rabona TV because Adrian is doing some very special things over there. And then I feel like we should have a wager of some sort. Some sort.
Some sort of forfeit?
Well, yeah, whoever loses. I'm going 2-1 Juventus, you're going 2-1 Madrid. You gotta do something crazy on your channel.
Let's let the Warmballers decide.
Okay, Warmballers. You guys decide what we should do as a forfeit if we lose. I'll do whatever you guys want. That seems somewhat agreeable and not too offensive on my channel. And then Adrian will do something on his if he loses. Deal?
Deal.
That's it. All right, guys, enjoy the game this weekend, and I'm probably gonna see you tomorrow. I just wanted to get this out so we could talk about this big, giant game for 2 days. All right, we're done talking. Later.